All right, y'all ready for a Black History moment that I venture many of us have never heard before? You ready for it? Have you heard of the slave rebellion led by Nat Turner from 1831? Did you know that 4 years later there was a much larger slave rebellion? This slave rebellion was called the Black Seminole Rebellion. It started in 1835 and lasted until 1842. 7 years for those of you doing the math. You like a slave rebellion that lasted 7 years and I've never heard of it? See, we've heard of the ones that was a quick uprising and then was quickly squashed. But the Black Seminole Rebellion started with slaves in the South rebelling against their masters and rebelling against their keepers. And of course, they were killing their slave masters as they traveled south, picking up more people along the way. The U.S. government, being made aware of this, began to pursue those enslaved, now fighting for their own freedom, people. These enslaved people fighting for their freedom and rebellion had a plan to make their way down to Florida trying to escape. When they got to Florida, they linked up with the Seminole Indians in Florida. The Seminole Indians in Florida and these formerly enslaved people combined to fight against the American government for 7 years. For 7 years, the American military could not conquer these two groups of people. What these slaves were so inept at doing, so well at doing, and with the help of the Native Americans, they knew how to use the lay of the land and the swamp areas. So when the military government would come and try to kill them, they knew how to do guerrilla tactics. They knew how to fight against an organized, well-trained government and win on behalf of their own freedom. How many of y'all ever heard any of this? Once it became apparent that this was a stalemate, these are former slaves and some of these Seminole Indians decided that the best thing they could do was make their way to Mexico where they will be freed. So they fought their way to Mexico, and even after Mexico, y'all know how America is, they couldn't take a loss. But they still couldn't defeat these formerly enslaved people. So the American government and these formerly enslaved people came to an agreement that they'd stay in Mexico and not come back and lead a rebellion, and that the American government will leave them alone. And the document that they signed in order to seal this became one of the foundation documents of another document that will come a few years later called the Emancipation Proclamation. This is our history. This is our story. This is our song. That we have been a strong people. That even against all odds, God has been on our side. This is not Black history. This is American history. This is our history, and I'm glad to be able to share that with you. I know some of you want to go look that up yourself, read about it a little bit more. They have it buried, but these are facts, y'all. It is called the Black Seminole Rebellion from 1835 to 1842. Look it up yourself. Enjoy it because the story I told you is a much shorter story of a much longer story. So do your own reading, do your own research, and be blessed by knowing the strength of the people that many of you come from. And the church said, amen.